Thank you for coming. We are so glad that we could be your excuse to get out of your Easter dinners today. Disney, for a long time, since the 1930s, has been having life drawing classes at its studios. It was an animator named Art Babbitt who started this in his home. And then when Walt Disney found out about it, he said, this will create a huge scandal if people find out that you have naked women posing at your house. So we're going to bring it to the studios. Apparently that wasn't a scandal. So they started having classes at Disney and later brought in a veteran art teacher. And it's continued ever since. And other studios around Hollywood have been following suit whenever their budgets allowed, but Disney is the only studio that has continuously had these classes since the 30s. These guys are the current master teachers at Disney. They are hopefully not the end of the line. But the continuation of a long tradition. Disney not only has classes for its feature film department, but for all of its departments. Consumer products, Imagineering, which is their theme park division, Toon Studios, online, and so it's a real commitment across the entire company to consistently improve its animators' skills. So let me just introduce you. Bob Kato. Raise your hand. Yeah. So we bring our own fans, you see. Has taught at Disney since the mid-90s. And he also currently teaches at Art Center in Pasadena. And he has, do you still teach at Universal Studios Creative?
No.
Okay. Okay, he has in the past. Really? Do you want to voice your concerns right now? Okay.
How do you spell your last name?
M-O-U-S-E. Okay. Before that, he was an editorial illustrator for publications like National Lampoon and exhibits in the Smithsonian Institute's National Zoo and the Florida Aquarium. And he has a new book coming out in July based on classes that he currently teaches for civilians called The Drawing Club, and the book is called The Drawing Club, Mastering the Art of Drawing Characters from Life. So make sure you pick up a copy when it's out. Next victim, Carl. Are you texting?
What? No.
Oh, God, I saw you looking down. I'm sorry, am I boring?
Safe search is off. It's images.
Okay, Karl Gnass. You're awake now, right? Okay. Has been teaching drawing, painting, and storyboarding for over 40 years and at Disney for 20. He's also taught at DreamWorks, Sony, ImageWorks, Nickelodeon, and Warner Brothers Features Animation. In addition, he has storyboarded for Disney Television Animation and developed character expressions and anatomical breakdowns for Stuart in Stuart Little, and character breakdowns in Harry Potter. His latest book, Spirit and Force, just came out this week, and he will be signing copies of it downstairs at Stuart Ing's Books booth. And I'll be whoring these guys out later at the end of the panel, so you'll have all this information.
We don't mind.
Well, you guys are all cheap and tawdry anyway. Okay. Mark McDonnell has taught costumed and gesture drawing at Disney's TV Animation and Toon Studios for the last 6 years, as well as the California Art Institute. He has also worked as an artist at Disney, Pixar, Fox, and Jim Henson, among others. And his latest book, The Art and Feel of Making It Real, is currently on sale. That almost sounds like a porn magazine.
Practice makes perfect.
And Karl and Mark also also teach classes for civilians at the the American Animation Institute at the Animation Guild in Burbank. Bob's drawing club I mentioned earlier is weekly Thursday nights in Glendale. And Dan, I haven't forgotten you, but we did like go on a whole riff about you being in the bathroom though when we first started.
It's pretty quick.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I was reading.
Okay, so Dan Cooper at the end is a Disney visual development artist who's worked on Tangled, Wreck-It Ralph, and the upcoming Zootopia, and has studied with Karl at Disney and Animation Guild classes for the better part of 2 decades. And he's going to talk about what these types of classes have done for his animation school.
And I still can't get it right.
And DR Peacock is our techie. So you can clap for him too because he's going to be running your Okay. All right, so you guys ready? All set?
Why not?
All right. Okay, so why does anyone need to know life drawing skills if they're drawing, SpongeBob SquarePants or Disney princesses? Animation is so exaggerated. Why do you need to know anatomy? Okay, this is how it works. I ask a question, and you guys are theoretically the experts, and so you could just sort of jump in and answer.
All right, I'll start then.
I hate it here.
I know SpongeBob doesn't have any bones. Or maybe he does.
No, so why, animation is exaggerated, so why is life drawing necessary? How does classical drawing translate to
I think
that?
there's a fundamental drawing skill that helps, lubricate the brain and neurological pathways.
You said liberty. I love it. Wait, the sponge.
So can anyone follow up on lubrication? Okay.
No.
What would you like to see? You want to do it Oprah style? You want to come up here? Here's the mic. Come on up. Do you have anything to say? Yes. Yeah. Because these guys aren't talking. I can't shut them up in class, but now they're quiet. What do you have to say? Who the hell are you anyway?
My name is Justin.
Justin, this is the audience over here.
Hey, how's everyone doing today?
Justin, are you stoned? What's going on?
No, I'm not stoned, but I love these guys right here. These guys are the people that are doing amazing things in the world. Well, wait, you keep wanting me to talk to you, but what's going on? It's a lot better like that.
What are you doing? You love these guys.
Everyone,
Are you an artist?
can everyone? No.
How do
No.
you know these guys?
No, they do amazing things. I'm sorry, they do amazing things.
Okay.
It's awesome.
Okay, great. Is that all you have to say?
Is that all you want me to say?
I'm getting nervous.
I thought we were talking about lubricant, because I went for KY, so it's, it works. No, I know.
Free samples for everyone, guys. And you thought you were just going to be here to buy books. Okay.
I guess lubricant was the key word.
Okay.
And the lubricant.
Thank you. What is it, Jason? Justin.
Okay, we'll remember you, Justin.
Okay. Justin, are you going to buy a book now that you've completely disrupted the panel? Are you going to buy books from these guys? All right. Okay, so I've just made a sale.
Let me just say one more thing on
lubricant?
that, and Mark has something to say too.
Okay.
So, the drawing skills are really your base understanding, and regardless of what the style of a show is, or what kind of exaggeration, what kind of shapes, whether it's a shape show or a 3D show, it really doesn't matter. Those drawing skills are your base understanding, and it's very important to have that because when the show is over, the style is gone. So you need to go back to resource, and from resource you can create anything. If you have no resource, let's just say you work on a show that's a flat show, which people love, it doesn't
Except
mean
for you.
No.
This is garbage.
Mark, you were
This
just...
is really all for real. But at any rate, if you are, let's just say you understand those styles really well, but You placed all your money on that. Now the show's over. Now what? If you have to go do a different kind of show, say something like Gargoyles or Batman, or whatever, it's going to require a different kind of skill. They're going to be looking for that in your package, you know, where you're trying to sell yourself here. And if it isn't there, it's going to be, talk to me later.
Right.
Doesn't matter how much time you've had in the industry.
Yeah,
It's not that you'll find yourself out.
I totally agree. I think that it's kind of like language. So if you see drawing as language, which it is, a style for a show is kind of like writing a story. And if you only know how to write one story, then that's it, right? But drawing is like the core of what we do. So if you focus on that core and you keep practicing it, you find nuances that you never knew were there. And it allows you to draw more different kinds of things. You know, three-dimensional things, two-dimensional shape language. It's language, okay? You can never know enough.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think drawing is a language, and it's something that's a fundamental thing you need to learn no matter what, how to communicate. When you start to stylize something, it's about editing it out. Oh. Hey. No, so I think when you start to work on different shows and different styles, it's about taking things out and just keying in on certain. So editing things down from the complex to simple is a lot harder than you think. So if you don't have that initial foundation of how to communicate, regardless if it's sculptural or design, everything is design, period.
I'm actually cut in here. Design is actually at the core of all of this. What all these guys are basically saying is that no matter how stylized, whether you're doing something extremely stylized or something realistic, there still has to be a basis that you are abstracting or designing from. If you are basically, and we'll actually be showing some slides from history on that as well. If you basically just started off designing something that doesn't have any solidity or reference from it, then you're basically abstracting from an abstraction, or basically lying from a lie.
Right. That's why Google Images is not the greatest resource.
You want those? Why don't you show some of those historical medieval shots? You just say something.
Yeah. So basically, and we don't want to get too much into the history of art, but this is actually something that's a little bit analogous to some of the periods that are going on right now.
Yeah, for reference, I think as much as you think that art is a fun and it's something to do, it's a very, I don't want to scare anyone away, but it's a very serious cerebral act, and it is a direct reflection of how you think about things, and that's, you know,
Okay, so the image.
So he's got the images up.
Yeah, do you guys want to talk about?
Would you just say a few things about
Yeah.
it?
So basically, without getting into the thing where we all start falling asleep and our eyes start getting a heavy history of art. During basically the post Roman or Greek times, there was a design period where it was not
Post-Renaissance.
pre-Renaissance, basically Byzantine and medieval periods. It was not recommended that you observe or study from life. So what started happening, you know, I went to college. You'd never know. So basically what happened was you start having artists looking at the Greek and Roman studies, which were all fantastic and way, way beyond their time. And then you start having people copying the copies that were done from life, and then copying the copy of the copies that are done from life, and then copying the copy of the copies. It's like the game of telephone, and you're getting further and further from whatever truth or whatever reality was in there. This is not at all dissing design or any aspect of stylization. It's the idea that whatever you're doing should be your stylization and your abstraction from reality as opposed to someone else's. So when you start getting into, okay, I love Powerpuff Girls, I love Mary Blair, so I start copying them as opposed to what did those people work from when they came up with their style. So you can use all of that as an influence, but you still want to add to it your truth, your reality, and your research, not someone else's.
yeah.
That's it.
Can I say one thing about Mary Blair? Okay, I love Mary Blair. I don't want to get in trouble here. I absolutely love her, and I love her color sense. And her communication was to bat out many different things to communicate what was happening or possibilities. It was also that of an era, and an era in advertising and communication. If you are going to utilize her many successes or try to figure out her style, you need to analyze it and not copy it. And that's sort of the same thing when it comes to looking at a different style. It's not about drawing the outside line. Again, it's just like any communication, gesture, drawing, anything.
Drawing with understanding.
And from the inside out. It has to have purpose instead of, yes, this looks like a fox drawn with a chalk brush. You know,
Mark, I wanted to say, you do something in your classes that's interesting. You will help students tailor, like be able to adapt to the different styles, but also maintain their own. And how do you use life drawing or costume drawing to enable people to keep their own style, but also tweak it so that it approximates the studio that they're looking to get a job in?
So there is two sides to art, and there's probably more than that, but I think there's a communication side where you're trying to communicate something, but also there's a business side now that we have to be aware of, and it takes cerebral understanding. You have to understand what a studio does, or a style, or another artist that you're trying to understand their patterns, or proportion, which is how many heads tall something is, or who is your audience that you're trying to appeal to. Regardless if you think it's universal, it's about communicating to usually a certain age range, and that's 9 times out of 10 a proportional thing. So in order to communicate that or get other artists to buy into that in a short amount of time, which is not very easy, you need to work within the framework of the rules and try to figure out straights against curves, or how many heads tall, what's the proportion of the nose to the eye, the golden mean ratio. And so if you can just understand a few things, you're gold. You get to explore and try new things that you weren't comfortable with. You know, but I guarantee you, if you ask everyone up here, regardless of their breadth of work, we're all, personally, as well as everyone else, trying to grow and get better, or not only understand the world we live in, but what show we're trying to work for or on. You know, in the beginning, you're really lucky in feature film. There's a lot of things that you could try. You could go off in visual development, which is some amoebus word that people can't define right now. So that is great, but when it comes to working within the framework of a show that has been not set in stone, you need to work within those rules. So proportion is something that I try to get people to get out of their comfort zone. How many heads tall is something? You know? Are there points of articulation where things bend? How much detail or anatomy? How much do you edit out? You know? Because don't forget, now 9 times out of 10 when it comes to feature, we're designing for someone else to animate, right? You're not hand animating things anymore. So hopefully you're working within a group framework. So you have to design something or do it in a way to make their life easier, not for you to mentally masturbate about how cool your drawing is. You know, it's like you
Justin's gonna like that comment.
Well, hey, listen, you got plenty of time at home. So, you know, you might be able to illustrate something or design it beautifully, but that might not necessarily translate to a physical thing that you're building in 3D. So you have to understand form and function, you know. It's like a giant truck in the middle of a city with the rubber testicles hanging off the end of it. You know, which we've all seen, and we laugh and giggle, but then you realize, how are you going to park? So it means form and function. Use that car, go out into the desert and have a good time. So you have to focus on your goals or your task. It's not just about drawing anymore.
The drawing process, I think those of us that have been doing it a long time have realized that there's not an end to it. You don't reach a place at which you can say, I have arrived. But what I think happens is you begin to become comfortable with the process, and then you relax into it because you realize it's never over. But at the same time, you realize that it's a constant resource. So when you go back with questions. Questions are really, really important.
And they're specific.
And they're specific. They get more and more specific in a way. And when you are specific, being specific is like focusing. So when the drawing experience is, well, I suck, I should draw better. Okay, that's one kind of a statement, but it needs to be turned into a question. How to draw better, that's pretty broad. But as we go along, that question becomes more and more pointed, right? And when it becomes more pointed, it acts like a focus, which allows you to travel into your own developing experience. I think that's really, really important.
Karl taught me personally, whether he verbally said it or not, and both these guys, was be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's because, I mean, if you're simply this is really this is a good point. If you're constantly trying to make pictures that you think make you look good, then you're not in enough trouble in order to be learning and changing. You do need to allow yourself to get out of that comfort zone and do lousy pictures, because comfort, really, what that means is that you're comfortable with the habits that support how you look, and then you end up kind of stuck on a plateau.
Drawings all start looking the same. It's true. I kind of see it somewhat like if you were to go on a trip and you could plan everything out. You could even do exactly what somebody else did, and the experience is pretty predictable. But if you just kind of go and you just kind of observe, and you react to what's there, each trip is going to be totally different. And I think that drawing for me is kind of like that. And I agree that, you know, we kind of see the world through this design and drawing filter, and we see things differently than other people. And it turns into the stuff that we do. But when it gets too much about like technique or process, or you know what a style is, or like Karl says, you get self-conscious that you want to do the perfect drawing every time. It kind of stops, okay? And you want to be in that mindset, like Mark said, where you want to be taking risks. And I think that's where the really great stuff happens, right?
Is there a different way that you teach aspiring animators, people sort of coming up through the ranks, versus people who have arrived and are doing the
Yeah.
How can you go through your process?
Well, for me, it's fairly simple. I mean, they're all sitting next to one another in my classes. I'm doing fundamental classes.
And by fundamental, you're...
Fundamental drawing skills, but, you know, I've got professionals sitting next to amateurs, but the basic difference is how they're taking what I say, on what level, and what kinds of questions they ask. The questions will be on different levels.
Okay.
And what I like about mixing them up like that is that sometimes the professionals miss things. And they'll see the so-called amateur finding those things, and they'll go, oh, you missed that. You can pick that up. On the other hand, the amateur can learn a lot by watching the skill level and the way a more professional would treat learning.
And then how do you, when you're in your professional classes, how do you prevent, so you're going to have people at sort of a similar level, how are you going to prevent them from taking shortcuts from each other?
Yeah. It's scary when you sit there. It doesn't say anything and you know you've done something wrong.
People have asked me, so I came here to get shortcuts. Well,
You're like,
right. I want to
No, I mean, how do you prevent, if you have an entire class of people speaking or drawing in kind of shorthand?
Tricks and shortcuts have no rules. That's the problem. They fly over. They don't stem from anything. It's like Dan was saying. It's the soup of the soup of the soup of the soup. It's way down the line. It no longer has any nourishment.
Yeah. It's like baking a cake out of the box. You know? It's already mixed together. You know, it tastes pretty good, but you don't know it.
Yeah.
And, oh, good. I was going to ask Dan a question, but Mark, you were about to say.
well, I also think that in this day and age, first of all, how we all draw naked people, and if you don't, you have to. Period.
What?
Yeah.
Free class. So the body and its locomotion or the idea behind it hasn't changed, and it is the root of everything. And it's something that you just have to understand and learn until you die, you know. And we're lucky because of that. So that has to come before everything. And then you know, the way that I teach to different people at different levels is, gone is the day where Walt Stanchfield was just teaching animators. This business has become exactly that. And they do farm people out in a lot of ways. But there are different aspects to communicating, whether it's storyboard, visual development, character, whatever you're trying to accomplish. So there are rules or things that might help you, composition and those sort of things, that you can either work in the framework of a panel to understand how you're going to progress to what came before and what came after. So each person is different. So when it comes to a professional, I think it's almost less is more, where you're saying too little things because they've already gone this distance and know they want to work on this. It's not like, I need to draw feet. You're like, no. You know, it's like, oh, I want to do boards, but now I need them to be more cinematic, so I need to work on lighting and value to understand how to draw the eye somewhere. Okay, well, let's work with where's the center of the page or something. Where if it's a character exploration, not only working on proportion, you're leading these people. This is not for me, it's not for us. We are trying to help these people do their job, just like our art director or whoever is helping us to do our job. So it's less about when we get the opportunity to work within the studio in that framework, it's more about giving them little pieces of information to help them on their journey, because that's all they need.
Can I take a second here? I don't know whether you're watching the scroll up here, but you'll notice that some of Dan's work is professional. Some of his professional work is being exhibited up there as well. You have to get through this crap.
That guy's pretty good.
But soon we'll get to Dan's work. I want you to take a look at it as we go. You're kind of flipping through, all right? Because I think it's important for you to understand that not everybody moving into this professional environment is working with 3D concepts, 3D drawing, which is basically working with three-dimensional maquettes or puppets. They call them rigs. Right. And animators today are not drawing, they're moving these rigs around. They're basically marionettes, right? And so they become handlers. Here we go. This is Dan's stuff.
Show off.
And yeah, move through the first couple there. They're really nice, but let's move through to some of the things. I want to look at these things. That's not your professional. That's painting.
Yeah, that's just painting.
And right, and then a couple of things I think also from the studios.
Right. Yeah, there you go. That's from Tangled. Early on in Tangled, we were trying to figure out, and that's actually, well, we already passed it, but that one picture of Rapunzel was actually done. It's a collaboration of a few of us because we all work as team members. The painting is mine, but the fundamental design of it was done by Claire Keane, Glenn's daughter. The figure drawing underneath it is done by Jenny Kim. Go back one if you can. Yeah, there you go.
Right there.
But the idea of that was our directors, Byron Howard and Nathan Greno, wanted to have something that felt more natural, light-wise, and that had the feeling of basically live light, if you will, which means something where a lot of the color is a little bit more exaggerated based on things from life, as opposed to something that is just something where you're copying colors from a photo, or something stage lit, which means literally what you have in there, the back window is north light, what's happening inside is a warm fill. And you've got to paint enough from life to be able to understand what that is and analyze it. It's the same thing with drawing. You've got to be able to analyze. What these guys are talking about, basically, whether you're doing Saturday morning animation whether it's hand-drawn or whether it's CG. You want to be able to have something where even if it's the most simple of characters, you still want to have some kind of feeling that there's a bit of a pelvis in there, that there's a rib cage, and that there's some kind of a feeling of weight, and maybe a certain amount of contrapposto in the pose. That's stuff that makes things believable. You can simplify it down to where it almost isn't there, but there still has to be an understanding of it.
Great. Now I want to take another moment. Can you flip over to and hold in that first image of the perspective hand shot? Yeah. So there are different things, different skills that are important. I've always said to people that you really need to understand perspective. So no one wants to do perspective. I mean, you know.
Perspective's drawing.
Yeah. So, but not
It
only
sucks.
do you need to know perspective, but you hold on that shot for a minute. This was a, not only do you need to know perspective, but you need to know it well enough that you can bend it and play with it. So when I was storyboarding for Disney TV, my director said, I want you to do this shot. I don't want the layout person to do it, because I want this shot to kind of roll from an up shot to a down shot in one pan shot. So here you have, for instance, you'll notice the frame within the frame. It starts close and then it kind of pans out and hits the frame and it goes over and then it kind of pans down into the street. That's all in one shot. Perspective doesn't work like that, right? This is really bending the rules. Well, the only way you can do that is if you understand them well. You can't make this stuff up. Go to the next shot. And this is a fairly similar idea here, starting from an up shot, crossing over into, you know, kind of torquing into a down shot. And then you go to a close-up, perhaps, or you do a cross dissolve, as you see it following it. Let's look at a couple of these other shots here following up. Like Dan's work, this work is done as conceptual art for Marvel. You might recognize some of the characters and so on by Rodney Fuentebella. And let's go to the next one. And you'll see that all of these provide the right inspiration and also the challenges that they will move toward from this particular inspiration. And there's lots of room for this kind of thing. They're key shots. It's concept art, and one needs skills for this. And Rodney continues to take classes. This is Glenn Keane. He was taking classes. Obviously, you see he's still working on the body and what it's made up of, even though, moving along here, even though it becomes very plastic and alive, and liberties are taken. Look at how, you know, plastic that form is, how much life there is in it, you see. But it all comes back to what are the skills, where, you know, how can I understand it better? Is there more that more than I can do? And so it's a never-ending game in that particular aspect. Is that the one more? Look how beautiful that is. And when you look at the total design, you see that it's very simple triadic, but they're both bending from the spine up and in, so that the understanding of the infrastructure of both the ape and Tarzan there is very clear. It's a really good understanding of what's going on. It's not just an iconic position. There is a sense through and through that we can feel empathetically when we look at these characters.
And again, all this study and this knowledge, it's not there's a malleable surface, but at the end, the only end goal is life. It's fake. This is all fake. But it's based on reality, and it's to make someone have an emotional reaction. You care. So if you don't have that, you've got a mannequin. You know, you've got something that listen, good job constructing the form, but you're supposed to do gesture first so it looks alive, and then you make the pieces work. Otherwise, it's a piece of wood, right? right? So to get structure but also make it feel alive is a combination of a couple of things. That's why it's so hard. There's no way accountants want to do their job. If they could be an artist, I'm sure they'd want to be, but
Well, they own them.
yeah.
So, is there something you wanted to add? Do we have time for questions?
I was about to say, we have about 15 minutes for questions, but I want to make
Is
sure
there
we
anything
can all...
else you wanted to say?
Draw like the wind. Draw, just draw.
Draw, draw, draw.
So at this point, I wanted to open up the floor to questions. And do we have a microphone that people can... Oh, right.
This one right here? 3 back. Go 3 back. 3R. There? Past it?
It's a good looking guy right there.
There you go. This in here? Forward. Go forward.
He's forward. He's forward.
Are they naked?
Herbert.
In here? In this work? Yeah, what about it? That's mine.
Did you hear that, Carl? You're pretty good.
You can buy his book at Stewart Ing Bookstore booth downstairs.
That image is
that it?
actually in the new book that Stuart Ing has done.
You can own that image for yourself.
For this very day.
That's right. And he might even sign it for you if you're really nice.
Well, that's a question.
Okay. Onward. Yes.
Okay. So with the advent of 3D animation and digital art, do you think we'll ever see a return to classical 2D animation on the big screen? And also, how do you feel about 3D art, 3D movies?
Well, it depends what context you mean, or what city, what town, what part of the country. I think everything is saleable. I think everything could be done and is done. If you go over to France, you'll see 1 million animated films that are traditional. So I think
Talking about specifically America and like from Disney.
no.
Everything goes in movements. I turn a question to you. What do you like better, charcoal or watercolor?
Charcoal.
Well, to me, basically, you were talking about 2 different types of animation. You happen to prefer one. One is not better than the other. So what you're saying is you prefer one. Right now, one is in vogue, and I'd say that the best of the 3D animation, just my opinion, rivals the best animation that's ever been done. It depends on the movie. Some of it is better, some of it isn't, and that's all a personal thing. A lot of it is going to be based on what does the audience want and what does the audience demand. For myself, I want to see a good movie.
Agreed. Thank you. Good story, good character.
Yeah. No more sequels.
Or did you also mean, like, are these life drawing skills necessary for someone pursuing strictly digital, computerized art?
No, I know they are.
Okay.
I am myself trying to be a 3D animator, so I'm just wondering if there's ever going to be a sort of like small like renaissance in the...
You never know. That's not up to us.
Yeah, never
I mean, even if you look in development at different studios, there's
Nobody was interested in drawing the figure at all in animation or anywhere in the art world prior to Little Mermaid. When Little Mermaid came out, everyone wanted to know how to draw the figure. That's why I was pulled back from, what I was doing into the teaching business. I had done it before, but no one was really interested. They had to hunt me down.
Okay, thank you. Also,
You know how to do this, right? Can you show us? When I was working at Disney, as a storyboard artist, they asked me to teach. I said, well, why do you want me to teach? Everyone here knows how to do this stuff, don't they? Well, yeah, but we could learn more. So, suddenly there was this influx of interest, and it just spread. It was a renaissance. This is all through the 90s. But because of the advent of 3D, people didn't know what to do with it. And now I have people coming to my classes that are not artists per se, but they've come to value learning the skills. Because what I said right from the get-go is that it stimulates thinking and troubleshooting and in very specific ways towards this form. And so you'll find people that don't do traditional drawing valuing this a great deal.
Thank you, and also thank you for being here.
And don't forget, you know, when you're communicating on a piece of paper or a digital screen, or we are entertainers. This art, hopefully you're trying to increase your craft, but we are doing this for someone else to see this. You're entertaining and creating artwork. Or, I mean, you're trying to learn and grow in different areas, but you're trying to communicate to someone else, not just yourself. You know, when you start to work on films and TV shows, it's a team effort to get the idea across. It's gone as your personal preference. In the grand scheme of things, you're trying to work within a system. You're communicating to someone else. You know, I love it when my mom would kiss me on the cheek and put my drawing on the refrigerator. I love you. But you know,
Such a good boy.
Oh. But you know,
Did you have your mother pulling things out of the trash that you threw away and putting them on the refrigerator?
no, she threw mine away. So I think that's just something to always consider. Who's going to see this? Is important for me to impart to other artists, my position.
Yeah, I mean, as drawing relates to the business, I mean, I love listening to these guys. I just get caught listening just like you guys. You never say never. You never know what's going to happen in this business, but I totally agree with Dan. It's about, I just like good movies, and some are 3D and some are 2D. And I think if enough people are really interested, I would not be surprised if there was more 2D stuff happening. I really wouldn't be surprised, as long as it's good.
And they may surprise us with the way they present it.
Yeah.
Maybe in a form that we're not accustomed to.
Yeah, and technology will have something to do with it. Yeah.
So who saw Wall-E? Woo! Right, did you not fall in love with him and this disgusting cockroach from the beginning? Who saw Wreck-It Ralph? Who did not see Wreck-It Ralph? Failed. No, I'm just kidding. There's a part in there where he has to do something to the girl's car. And it is so unbelievably well done and emotional that you cannot help but get caught up in this, right? It's amazing. So who's seen Little Mermaid, right? How many emotional scenes are there? A lot. It has to pertain to you growing up seeing this and remember, right? So it doesn't matter the medium. It's about communicating, hopefully, what Disney does best. It not only entertainment, but it's heart. Right? We're communicating to someone else, regardless if it's a robot or some giant guy with hands. It's the humanity that you see in it that you relate to. And that's the goal, is to be entertained. I mean, I cry all the time in movies. I'm still tough. They're tough. That's the point. You want to do that for your audience. I want to be entertained the same.
Mark just cries all the time.
Very sensitive.
Walk into the room.
So we have some more questions coming up.
Hi guys, hope you're having a good day. Could you guys tell us, you know, when you, like I struggle with proportions, so when you face a problem, how do you face it? How do you break it down? Are there books that you reference to, some of the masters, or is it just high volumes of work that until you solve whatever issue that you're facing?
High volumes of work will not get you there.
This here.
You've heard this thing about 10,000 hours? You know, Gladwell's book.
Mm-hmm.
All you're hearing about are the ones that were successful by doing 10,000 hours, not the ones that weren't. What's important is that you put in quality time, that you are active when you're learning. In other words, you have to have the question with you at every minute. You can't be thinking about your laundry list or what you're going to do later. You need to put in active time. That's the only time that counts. not the volume.
To Karl's point, basically what happens when you have 10,000 hours worth of drawing the same mistake over and over and over again. You're basically practicing your mistakes, and that's what Karl's talking about learn smarter, learn better, whatever that means.
I think you have to do, my process is this isn't correct, right? This is just one ugly guy doing one thing, okay? That's true.
I'm here.
Oh. So I think the process is this. If you work in a framework of creating a model or a model sheet, right, that's the mannequin. And you draw it and you get familiar with it. But what we're seeing in other sketchbooks, I walk around all the time and look for other artists' work. It's inspired, right? But what you're seeing is not their drawing or proportion, you're seeing their thinking process and how they got there, not the finished thing. So I think you have to think through it and pose it out and then start to measure and be very anal and technical, and then over time you realize you try to wing it, you go off the road, see if you can do it, then come back to the road. So it's not, I wish art was A plus B equals C, then we'd have no jobs. You know, so no, I think it's really a process of finding and communicating, asking people you respect or like their point of view versus your experiences, and wait.
Even skills aren't A plus B plus C.
Damn it.
Art is not, but neither are skills. It isn't, if that were so, you could have bought that one book, and that would have been it. Right.
There's a horrible thing that you'll keep hearing in your art classes, and I wish I could tell you that it isn't so. That basically you've got to see the whole figure, and you've got to see the whole design. When you start thinking about the individual proportion of pieces, it's because you're looking at pieces and not the whole. Karl talks a lot, and I really hate to say this because it gives him credit. But basically, he'll be talking about long lines and comparing shapes and comparing volumes. When you're looking at all that, you're going to start to see those things go away. But you have to stop looking at parts.
The part is to the part as the part is to the whole. You need to worry about the big picture before you get into the specifics. But when it comes to a technical understanding working within a framework, whether it's your own or studio's or something, you have to analyze it very technically, but then you've got to let that part go and try to make sure that it has that life, and then do your measurements and all that stuff. But
Let me add something. And when you are working on the part, you should not have forgotten. So when you're working on the part, you need to be thinking about the whole and how that part participates in the overall expression. If you're not, it just becomes a bunch of segments.
yeah,
You've probably seen a lot of movies like that. Just this part, this part, this part. It's kind of episodic, but there's no real flow or attention of one part to the other parts. All the parts need to be aware of how they participate in that larger expression.
And you know what, this sounds like a technical thing, but it's actually, every art form is kind of very connected. Whether it's music or anything, there are all these connections. And this is going to be kind of Eastern philosophy here. I don't want to ruin anyone's day looking at poison ivy from behind. But art is this, there's a connection between it all, and it needs to be from beginning to end, and it may be beyond that. So I don't want to ruin anyone's day either.
No, but I think
It's too
like,
late, Mark.
Damn it.
you know, a lot of artists take like Karl's class over and over and over again, and it's to be reminded of these things too.
I do.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think that you could be drawing, get lost in an area, and it's like looking at a part, like Dan says, you know, and then you can lose the proportion as an example. And so noticing it is step one. Then what you do about it is like what Karl's talking about, and that part is fun practice.
If you don't have a goal to accomplish, it's harder to reach it.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Next victim.
Good.
Hello, I was wondering, do you use, when you're sketching animals for an animated movie, do you use trained animals, or do you go out to like zoos and aquariums and use sketch from them?
Everything.
I know actually, a lot of the films at Disney, I know early on when I was at the studio around the time Lion King was made, they brought in lions.
And I was going to say, I think Disney's the one place I've seen that.
Cubs, was it basically basically three different age lions they brought in.
Just like the
and
movie.
I can actually tell you some funny stories about that. One of our heads of the company came in, and the lion was really relaxed until he came in, and then suddenly looked up like this and just started staring him down, and the guy had to leave. Which is funny. That's for a long time. Anyway, no, it wasn't. But anyway, but yeah, and actually on the current project, we actually had some. The Silmar Animal Rescue brought in some really cute little guys, which we were cooling over.
If you want to understand how to grow animals, it's the same process. You have to look at the anatomy, study it. You have to think about function. You have to go watch them move. You can't just start drawing them, ba-bum. You have to figure out how they move and the locomotion, and how they use their bodies, how they think. What are they interested in? They're interested in eating, right? They're having trouble eating, so they have certain survival techniques, intelligent survival techniques. And if they're prey, they're going to behave one way. If they're predator, they're going to behave another. All that comes into the drawing. It isn't just what the eye sees that you draw. It's also what they do, their instincts, all of that enters into it. It's as much inside as what's outside in the drawing. So I'm really against this kind of approach towards drawing, because what it does is it reduces everything to a flat image. That's why I don't encourage people to draw from photographs. If you're drawing animals from photographs, it's not enough. You have to think. I can see you, I can see your shapes, but I have to think about your volumes. I have to think about your infrastructure. Also, how your spine is and so on. But I also need to consider who you are as a person. You're wearing that hat. You're dressed a certain way. You are somebody. So all of that enters into the drawing.
Yeah, it's like character. I think of everything as character. Even if I'm drawing people, I'm associating them with birds or whatever. But I think, how many species of humans are there? One. How many species of animals? A lot. Right? 4 or 5. 4 or 5, give or take 1 million or something. So the deal is that those things are also really important to study as well. Okay, but we do relate to other animals, or say Kung Fu Panda. They're literally stuffed animals that move like humans because we relate to humanistic characteristics, right? But you do have to study all those other things, and I think that animals are neglected, and human is just another kind of animal, in my sad opinion, right? So, go to the zoo.
Go to the zoo.
Yeah, LA Zoo is a great resource for this kind of study.
Bring water.
But it's not enough. You need to do a 2 or 3 tiered study.
Yeah.
Not just going to the zoo. It's not enough.
And I literally, in my house, a good friend of mine jokes around, he calls it the room of death. It's like, I have all these skulls. They're not real, but they're all these different animal skulls. And just based off of those extrapolations, I can relate that to my personal work, but also to other human beings to see whether you believe in creationism or religion or evolution. It doesn't matter. They're both important to understand and know. But you can extrapolate from one form to another and get proportions and see how the human skull compares to other animals, and it's easier to make that jump and understand it when you're drawing in front of an animal.
Do we have time for any more questions?
We got the 5-minute mark about 2 minutes ago.
Okay.
So we'll keep going in 1 second. I just wanted to say, so that everyone hears, that Karl's going to be signing at Stewart Ink Books right after here, and those are booths 1011 and 1013, and Mark is at booth SP006 in the small press area. They're also going to be available to chat after the panel, and they have brochures if you're interested in studying with them. And then, do you want to just quickly say your websites, and we'll just go down and say your URLs, and then we'll jump back into questions. I just wanted to get that information out there. So,
Okay, well, Bob, by the way, Bob and I brought some things. We can go to the door and make sure if you want to pick up anything. I don't know when you brought anything, but you have a booth here. And
You have to leave a piece of clothing.
Dan, we're going to smuggle him out in a small bag after the event. So.
okay. So
But anyway, we can hand out things there. But what?
I was just going to shout out your URLs.
Okay.
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 Yeah, mine's really easy, just www.thedrawingclub.com. Thedrawingclub.com. There's something else, drawingclub.com.
Yeah.
Not me.
Yeah.
Mine is the same title of my first book, which is spiritofthepose.com. That's the website. I have some cards which will also help you get there.
Mine is www.sexytime.org. Not true. Don't do it.
That's sexy with 3 X's?
Yeah. No, mine is creativemarksuniversity.com, and it's with an 8 in it. And if you look on the internet, you'll see an ugly face, and I'm sure you'll find it.
So that's CRE8.
TID.sexytime.org.
And do you want to give out your blog spot, or do you care, Dan? What would you like to?
I care, I really care. Yes, it's Dan Cooper's Blog Splotch, and you'll see, I thought that was funny when I came up with it. It is. It really never was.
They're chuckling inwardly.
Yeah, inwardly it was funny. Ha yeah, that's it.
Okay, and are we getting the stop? Okay, so we just got the stop sign. That's on you. They're having a private moment there. Okay, so come and talk to them afterwards, okay? We're not ignoring you. Just definitely come and talk to them afterwards. Okay.
The signing at Stuart Ing's book spot is informal. I'm not going to be sitting down. I'll just be kind of hanging out there. All right. So.
All right. So I think that's it. We're good to go.